So design for theatre can be quite a lengthy process, I think, and especially with a play like this, because it's set in a kind of fictionalised place. So you don't really have the anchor of being able to look up on the internet the place in which it's set and know exactly how that looks. So it's much more about taking elements of the piece and finding out what they're inspired by, I suppose, and what finding visual languages for those things to represent those things on stage. So really we're creating our own world. So that's kind of been one of the biggest challenges of it, I suppose, is trying to create that language for telling this piece. You try things and they fail, and you try other things and those things sometimes fail, but then some things will be successful, and it's those successful things that you then take further, and eventually you start piecing this puzzle together, and there it is at the moment. So I think it'll probably still change as well, but for the most part I think we've kind of landed on a world for our show, yeah. From the first time I read it, actually, I thought it was really interesting. And I think a lot of the work that I do, when I look at my portfolio of stuff that I've made over the last 8 years, a lot of my work is quite conceptual. It's quite weird. It's not necessarily that clear. It's quite ambiguous stuff. I do a lot of work with physical theatre that's becoming dance, so there's a lot of worlds that are created and suggested, but they're not necessarily prescribed as you would in a normal play. So a lot of my work is that kind of stuff. So when I read this play and realised that this was a piece that could kind of fit into that kind of category, I found that really compelling. And you just realise that there's so much you could do with it, and I think that's what's interesting about it. Yes, there's really wonderful things inside it, like there's themes that people could get really excited about, which to a degree I do, but I think it's having the freedom with a piece like this that's really compelling. Knowing that you can draw on so many different things for inspiration, I think. Yeah. I always liked doing art in school, and I did a foundation in art and design, which I loved, and I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. I liked doing everything: drawing, sculpting, taking photographs, everything. And so theatre seemed like this opportunity to, I suppose, use all of those different practices in one kind of discipline, really. So that's why I think I do it, because it gives me this platform to create stuff that you can use a whole range of skills, and you can be pretty wild with the stuff that you manage to create, stuff that you really wouldn't have the chance to, I think, if you were potentially just a fun artist. It's a very difficult road. It's a very difficult career path, but it's a very wonderful career path. I think if you're a creative person, you have to choose a career where you can be creative. Otherwise, you will never be happy. I think that's true. If you're going to be a designer, I think just keep creating, keep making your art, keep making your work, and I think the best designers are probably the people with the most creative minds. So if you can train your brain now in whatever you're doing to push all those boundaries and to find creative solutions to whatever your task is, that's the best kind of place to start for theatre, really. And don't worry about all the university stuff or career path yet, just enjoy it, I think. It has to come out of a place of enjoyment, the work, otherwise what is the point?